redemption. What's up, Iron Will Collective? Welcome to the Iron Will Collective podcast, episode 14. Oh my gosh. Hope everybody's doing well out there amidst the fun and games all outside along the streets and in the grocery stores. You know what I'm talking about. I'd like to open up with this podcast. I'd like to open up and say thank you. And also pass you over to Elliot.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all for everything. Safety, number one priority as the end of days approach.
Yeah.
So live as long as you can. You see, upon the collapse of civilization, that doesn't mean we're dead. That just means that we have to start finding our own food and water. So you need to start thinking about that right now.
Watch a lot of those kinds of movies.
Yes, watch those movies and
that's good education.
Watch Bear Grylls, because if you need to learn how to squeeze moisture out of dung, he's got you covered on a full manual. He wrote the book on squeezing liquid out of dung, actually.
Man, I heard that he once skydived out of an airplane while eating a burrito and just ate it casually on the whole way down.
You see, I am not shocked at all by that, because
what a badass.
Like, I mean, if he's going to eat elephant dung, he's going to eat a burrito.
Yeah, I guess he's probably had worse options than burritos, that's for sure. But I don't know, man. Have you ever had burrito that just didn't sit well?
I think everybody has, but
yeah, still worth it somehow.
It really is. Don't ever give burritos a bad name if they ever make you sick. There are certain things you can give a bad name if it gets you sick, such as pudding. Even though it wasn't pudding's fault that you threw up, you were actually sick before that. Pudding just happened to be the last thing you eat. Don't take it out on the pudding. It's still good.
Yeah. You know what else is bad? Posture. Bad posture.
Yes, exactly. And that is what we came here to talk about. No more coronavirus crap. We're done with that crap. We're all dead anyway, so we might as well die with proper posture.
Yeah,
we might as well die feeling good.
Yeah. As I slouch in this chair right now, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I agree 100%. Since we are all going to die, you know, maybe to the Roni, maybe to other things, like, hey.
In a couple weeks.
Yeah, okay. Is that the timeline? Timeline's been all over the place lately.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, and the timeline for the end of days is debatable, but the timeline for you improving your life and improving your posture can start right here today. And not that there's a end to it. It's going to be a constant maintenance required type of thing.
Yeah. But
you can achieve some pretty desirable results in a fairly short amount of time with consistent effort.
And as always, we go back to consistency. But that's the thing with posture. I think that a lot of people underestimate what they can actually do to affect the way they stand at rest when they're relaxed.
And why you should want to change that if you have any sort of issues with, because it can lead to chronic pain, which nobody wants.
And man, so many people that I've met, they were under the impression that like bad posture is this genetic thing that they inherited or something, like, oh, I've always had a round back, or, you know, my head's always been this forward. And they accept all the crap that comes with it. Like,
has someone actually said that to you? My head's always been this far forward.
Dude, definitely. No, I don't think anyone's ever told me that, like,
not yet,
to my face. But first person who does got a very special surprise. It's going to be an exclusive Iron Will Collective My Head's Always Been This Forward eye patch.
Dang, dude, we're on the same page. I was thinking patch too, but not an eye patch. I was just thinking like a patch for a shirt or something, like some sort of Boy Scout merit.
Eye patches are in high demand right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know, Milan 2020. Oh.
Yeah,
I was thinking fashion show.
They canceled the Olympics.
Yeah. Eye patch Olympics. Wow.
They originated in ancient
Oh.
Greece, you know. Eye patch Olympics did.
Oh, man.
Back in the 1700s.
They're always ahead of the curve over there in,
They really
in
are.
Europe.
Yep.
Man, you see them with their scarves?
To hide that forward neck.
And there you go. Just another example of how people accept I'd say the negative outcomes to poor posture. So someone with a forward head posture, headaches, lots of headaches. And you can imagine with those neck muscles being so tight, pulling you and keeping you in that direction, misalignment, you've got this 20-pound head that's supposed to be balanced on top of your neck, which is on top of your
20
torso.
pounds, really?
Yeah, dude, 20
Oh my
pounds.
God.
That was when I learned that, it was really shocking, dude. So we were in the scan room over there at Prestige, and inside the room we have this like
Head scale?
no, it's like this 5 pound thing of fat or something, and so like it's just this model representation to show you like what that would look like if it was all sucked out of your body versus the size of like 20 pounds of muscle. So it's pretty much like a 20-pound representation of the calves, and it's just lean body tissue. And so it's giving you that contrast like fat and muscle. So if you take that 20-pound piece of muscle and you hold it in your hand, directly over your hand, it feels like 20 pounds. And if you tip it forward, feels like a lot more than 20 pounds because it's so off balance.
Oh, now we're getting into that physics, aren't we?
There we go. So that's what's going on when you are stuck in this forward head posture. You've created, or not created, but you've put your body in a disadvantageous position to support a relatively large amount of weight for muscles that aren't usually supporting that load all on their own. They get a lot of help from the torso and just anatomical structure.
So this you can kind of parallel to a deadlift that is not performed over with a straight bar path over midfoot. So if you were to have the bar out in front of you, that would be placing a lot of additional stress on all of your muscles really to have to support that out there, namely your shoulders and your back. So you can kind of think of it in the same way as that you always want to lift your deadlift in a straight line over midfoot, the most stable place that you can lift it.
Yeah.
So keep your head also in that same stable area there, directly resting upon your neck rather than out on a diagonal whatever.
Yeah. That extra degree of in the angle of your head posture. So relatively speaking, you can allow for a little bit of forward tilt, but that range is pretty small. So a good way to test something like this is if you sit in your car and you realize nice, and you realize that you don't use your headrest, then you probably have a forward head posture.
Or you're just cruising, you're doing that Tokyo drift. You got to be on high alert.
Yeah, zooming in on the road.
Yeah.
Like you actually physically have to get your eyeballs closer to it. You're like, I'm getting every inch I can right now. I'm not going to miss a single pebble on that road.
And then that will just lead to your poor posture in the future anyways.
Yep,
So
yep.
Another way that you can think about this is, let's say you were building a tower or something like that. You would want to, if you're going to put something heavy on top of it, say you're building it out of like popsicle sticks or something like that.
Yeah.
If you were going to place a weight on top of it, it would probably need to be centered on top of it in order to bear the weight. If you were to place it off to the side, it would probably collapse.
Yeah.
So while your neck's probably not going to collapse from the weight of your head, it's going to create muscle imbalances.
Exactly. So that's a super good analogy because it kind of gives you a good illustration of how the body works as one. So a lot of people might tend to think that, sure, you have forward head posture or you have like a rounded upper back. Well, while those may be issues just all on their own, you can have a singular issue in your mind. What in reality happens is that leads to compensations elsewhere. So we talk about the kinetic chain, which is essentially your body as a whole, muscles all the way from your head down to your toes, and how they all work together.
And your skeleton and the neurological system that drives movement and such.
Yeah.
So literally everything.
Yeah, all of it. Your whole body is the kinetic chain.
Even your hair. Fun fact.
Man, and if you try hard enough, your thoughts.
Yes, exactly. You can will your head to stay in that forward position as long as you have the drive.
Yeah, drives everything. Consistency, remember.
Yep.
Show up, that's all.
Show up, do bad, be bad.
Oh, man.
Simple as that.
Dude, you should get that in a bumper sticker.
I already got it tattooed.
Yeah. Oh, that's what your lower back says?
Yep.
Dude, I always wondered.
Yeah, I had it tattooed right over the top of the pain.
The pain of your, like, childhood as a stripper or something?
Yeah, just the pain of existence, basically.
Oh, man.
So, what type of muscle imbalances could you possibly be experiencing if you do have that forward head posture? How can you know what to address to fix it?
So it's definitely different for just about everybody, but you can find common threads. So a good diagnosis would come from somebody like a physical therapist or a posture specialist. We have posture specialists over there at Prestige, not to plug them, but I had just never encountered them before, so it's somewhat kind of new to me still, but they base their approach off of the Egoscue method, which is created by this guy named Pete Egoscue. I think he was in the military, and he ended up becoming a physical therapist or something like that, but very involved with the body and how it functions, and mainly correcting posture. So he's been developing his system since like the 90s, the mid to late 90s. And so it's come a long way. They've built a really cool program where they certify these posture specialists. Like, they have to fly out and they get hours and hours and hours of training. It's all direct, hands-on, and they learn a lot. So they work off of these things called menus. So on the menu, you'll have like exercises that are specially tailored for you, or they're chosen for you based off of your compensations or the posture that you're showing. And so something like a forward head usually involves resetting the spine. For example, they'll have you do this exercise where you lie on the floor with your legs up and a 90-degree bend in your knees. And so you'll lay down with your arms out at your side, palms up, for like 30 minutes. And gravity is supposed to really impose its will there on you and kind of just pushing all the muscles down, letting them relax, and therefore realigning you. But
how many times per week or month or whatever would you have to do this in order to yield some results?
I mean, that's also dependent on how severe you are, but in most cases, you would do it every day until the pain stopped for, about 3 days. So in most cases, that'd probably be like 2 weeks at least, and probably more like 4 to really feel a big difference, a big change. But they tend to be pretty low impact in their approach. Coming from kind of a different school of thought, you have like the physical therapy world, which uses more conventional exercises. And, they don't have menus or anything like that. They just take a look at your posture, and they not mostly, but they largely deal in pain. So people see physical therapists when they're in some sort of pain. So if you have forward head posture, your pain is probably related to something like migraines, or just not being able to lay on your back because your head is locked in this position. Or a lot of them tend to also have upper back issues. And so it takes like this holistic approach again, where you have to zoom out, look at the bigger picture, and figure out what's going on. So a lot of neck stretches, a lot of strengthening exercises at the same time. So stretching the muscles that are locked and overactive, really tight, pulling your neck into that forward head position, as well as strengthening the muscles that should be doing their job to help pull everything back.
So the tight muscles in this scenario would be the ones in the front of your neck, and the weak ones would be the ones in the rear.
Yep, and also upper traps. They tend to be very overactive, not necessarily very strong, but very tight, like rock tight sometimes. It's weird, man. Like if you ever meet somebody that has a pretty significant forward head posture, at least from my experience, man, like the tightest traps, you can poke it and it feels like a boulder.
It's because they're doing a lot of shrugs.
Yeah, dude, they got the yoke
They just
going
don't know.
Why are you always carrying those 50-pound dumbbells? I don't know. Shrugging.
The guy at Tumamoc.
Yeah, dude. He's a legend.
Yep.
I tell a lot of people about him. I'm like, you seen that guy?
You're like, yes, we've seen that guy. He told us 4 times.
Dude, he's epic. He's epic. He's got that power belly too.
Yep.
It's pretty sweet.
No question that he lifts.
No.
You don't even need to question it because he's carrying his weights.
That's right.
So to assess the situation, you must look at more than just one area of the body. It's far more helpful to take the big picture, because that way you can possibly kill a couple birds with one stone in your exercise plans. But also really, you're not going to have to go down a checklist of things like, all right, I'm going to solve this first, then I'm going to solve this next, because it really doesn't work that way.
Right.
You should work on solving everything kind of equally there. So coming down from the neck, the most common postural distortion, I guess, would be internally rotated shoulders.
Yeah.
It's like rounded shoulders here. They're overly protracted. So you can develop this. A lot of people will actually develop this in conjunction with the forward head posture due to repetitive activity, and that in our 21st century society, easiest way to make that happen, sitting on that computer all day.
Yep.
Sitting at a desk on the computer.
Any kind of chair. If you spend a lot of time driving, I'll tell you, one of the worst times my like posture really went to crap was when I was driving for Lyft, and being a driver in general, like spending hours in the car every day. Man, it felt like road tripping every day, because you work like, man, a short shift was like 3-4 hours. That's pretty decent.
It's a lot of driving.
Drive right there. Yeah, and I mean, you only get out to go pee or poop or whatever.
That is your first mistake. You have to have a pee and poop jug separate, of course.
You keep those, you keep those handy. But if you can, try to make your way to the toilet. I mean, it's nice. Get up and move every now and again. But yeah, it's crazy. And working in the office was the other time my posture just went to total crap. Before I converted to a standing desk, because you're right, like modern day society, it encourages the hunchback position. I mean, go out in public. Well, don't go out in public right now.
Too soon.
YouTube a video of people walking around in a mall or something, and just take note of how many people are walking around with rounded upper backs.
Also, take note of how many people you see with big asses, preferably girls. Just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can also look at boobs too.
Variety.
Just kidding again. Sorry, Jesselyn. I know I'm gonna get in trouble. Anyways, continue.
So, shoulders rounded forward. Yeah. In fact, I mentioned earlier, I'm sitting here with my hunchback. My shoulders are rounded forward. The thing is, it's a natural position to take on when you do find yourself sitting. It's comfortable. Just gonna come right out here and say it. It's relaxed and it is comfortable. I have in the past, I remember in high school, we were all in the cafeteria, no, like the gym for just this assembly thing. And I was sitting down on the floor on the basketball court. It was like we were all sitting, and crisscross applesauce, these people came up to me and they're like, "Why do you sit like that?" I was like, "Sit like what?" And they're like, "You look like you're on guard." And I'm like, "What? What does that mean?" And they're like, "You're so upright." And that's because I was like a really rigid sitter. Like I accentuated my good posture because I liked it.
And people noticed.
Yeah, well, it stood out. It looked different. And so, like, it brought a lot of awareness to my posture. And so, since that time, like, I really kept it in the back of my mind at the very least. So, when I was working for Lyft or when I was working in an office and my posture really started to degrade, not only did I notice it visually, but physically, I was very aware of the pain that it brought. So, for me, it was just an overabundance of tightness through the chest. And you can think about it and actually visualize it. If you round your shoulders forward, you can feel your chest muscles contract. You can feel them becoming tight. And so when you become locked into that position, again, like the upper traps, it's not that your pecs are necessarily strong. They're just overactive. They're constantly being engaged. And so they're locked into this shortened position. And what we have lengthened are your scapular retractors, so your upper back muscles, the muscles that are meant to pull everything back. Like we mentioned earlier in the gym, like if you think of the body as like levers and pulleys, you have to have balance. And so if you have too much tightness in one area and not enough in another, it's going to show in pain because now you're compensating. And so like things that should be pretty simple, like lifting your arms up overhead, becomes really painful for a lot of people, and it leads to a lot of other problems too, like rotator cuff tears, and just in general typically leads to forward head posture. So now you've got migraines, on top of all the other things. So it's not good.
Yeah, so basically your muscles, in order to be functioning properly, athletically, and to feel well in day-to-day life, your muscles have an optimal length that they like to be in order to be at their highest ability. So you want to do your best to maintain that length, and a few ways that you can do that with the internally rotated shoulders there is to address the tight chest with some sort of massage implement. Make sure to get those tight muscles loosened out and stretched as well. And then you'll want to focus on strengthening the muscles in your upper back. Mm-hmm. So hitting some of our favorite face pulls. Thanks, Jeff Cavalier from athleanx.com, made them famous. But I buy it, man. I totally buy what he says about it. It makes a lot of sense, and that is a great movement to use to address those muscles.
And he's such a big proponent of it because, man, what do we really do that addresses those muscles other than face pulls? Like,
well, you could target them to a greater extent with your normal back routine by with your horizontal pulls, possibly by taking a more flared elbow position to kind of put some more work on it. But really, you don't need a lot of weight to work those muscles too. So you don't really need to look at them, in my opinion at least, as something that you need to really look at a dedicated progressive overload for hypertrophy, because you're not really going to see those muscles.
Like the
rotator cuff. Yeah, you're going to check that rotator cuff out. Man, you're looking good. But no, these are some deep muscles.
Yeah, and there's quite a few of them.
Yes, I mean, the rotator cuff is made up of 4 muscles itself, and then you got a ton of others there that work to retract the scapula and to help with certain movements of the shoulder as well. So I think addressing them in a consistent manner with a challenging routine, but not something that's like, I wouldn't necessarily recommend using a heavy, wide grip, bent over row or something like that to address that. I would use something more of in a therapeutic sense.
Yeah.
So maybe superset it with your other back exercise.
Yeah.
Some
reps.
Hit it that way.
Lots of reps.
And then, of course, that's not to say that, again, as you mentioned before, just because your chest was tight doesn't mean it's strong. Of course, you'll still want to hit the muscles on the front of your body.
Yeah.
But you'll want to just pay extra mind to stretching and loosening the tight muscles.
Yeah. Addressing the tension is going to be just as important, if not more, in the initial stages, because that's honestly one of your quickest fixes. So like you said, you could get a foam roller, lacrosse ball. Man, you can even just use your own hand to massage your pecs. That's right. Get up close and personal with yourself. You start feeling up in the armpit area.
If you start feeling your nipple, though, you're probably just fooling around.
Yeah, and then when you're done with that, you can get back to massaging the pecs. It's going to make a huge difference. If you have a doorway, if you're lucky enough to have a doorway, then you can use that and get a good old-fashioned doorway stretch going on. Pretty easy. You hold your arms out to the side, both of them inside of the doorway. You lean in and feel the stretch through your chest. It's pretty basic.
Feels pretty good, too.
Yeah, it feels awesome. And so I know it's a common thing. They call it gym rat posture too. Like that's another name for it, because what a lot of dudes had been doing, and I don't know, I don't see this too often anymore, but I'm not in a big commercial gym. Like I haven't been in one in a long time, so I don't know if this is still a big thing. But gym rat posture, it's upper crossed, it's shoulders rounded forward, but the difference is they're really, like, they usually have big chest muscles, big shoulders, big triceps. Like they look like they're pretty built, but just totally rounded forward, internally rotated. They're probably the dudes that, like, they can't even bench press anymore because it's destroyed their shoulders. And so now they're like doing just like light dumbbell bench.
No, hammer strength chest press.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly it. But
that may be a result of them simply not paying proper attention to those inglorious muscles, those ever important inglorious muscles that you don't see.
Yeah.
In the upper back.
I think you see them, man. Like,
oh, you see the superficial ones, of course, but like the rotator cuff or whatever, something that you definitely want to be strong just for the sake of your life. And especially if you are into lifting weights, this is going to help, because having a deficiency somewhere along this kinetic chain that we have spoken of is going to result in compensation somewhere else along the chain, which over time is going to eventually result in injury if not addressed. Yeah. So your body is meant to work in a certain way. Again, your muscles have a certain length and tension that they like to maintain in order to work properly. So any discrepancies in that will be noticed somewhere down the line. So think of it as like you're on an assembly line, you're making a new Ford Model T, and you are at the part where you're supposed to put the door onto the car, but the guy who had the door before you forgot to install the hinges. You're going to run into a problem there. It's not going to work right.
Yeah.
So that's a very crude example.
No, but it's true. It's exactly what you said. Like, what happens in one spot of the body will absolutely have an effect somewhere else.
It's the butterfly effect. There are repercussions.
Yeah. Was that an Ashton Kutcher movie?
Yeah, it was. I actually really liked that movie.
Man, I saw it one time and it blew my mind, but I was a little kid.
Man, I got it on DVD. If you would like to borrow it, I would be happy to loan it to you.
Dude,
it's a good movie. Yes, I like it.
Taking all movie recommendations right now.
It's a good one. It's a good like multiple timeline type of thing, and it's like kind of confusing and kind of trippy, but I like that kind of movie.
You know, like Danny Darko?
Yeah, Donnie Darko.
I saw it one time.
Yeah, man, that's another one of my faves. Really? I got that on DVD too.
That movie is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
Danny Darko.
Yeah. But that was the Walmart version. Straight to DVD.
Oh man, like the special effects aren't that good. So like Frank the Rabbit's just a guy with like, I don't know, some makeup on.
Oh man, they couldn't even afford the suit.
Yeah, not even close.
Sounds
like they just got a hairy guy, and they're like, that'll do.
Harry Potter. I don't have that. Apologies.
Dang. But okay, so let's move it down lower on the body, because this is a good example of what you're just saying about how one thing will lead to either injury or compensation elsewhere, which ultimately leads to more injury. And yeah, injury. Like, you're going to get hurt. So lower cross syndrome, honestly, it's one of, I think, the most common. It's right up there. I'd say it's even more common than upper cross, at least in my experience. The people that I've worked with typically show an abundance of tightness through their hip flexors, a weakness through their abs and glutes, and overall a posture that gives them an accentuated curve through their low back lordosis.
So this is characterized by what they call anterior pelvic tilt. So you can picture your hips and if they were tilting forward, like picture them as a cup or something, sitting upright.
Yeah.
The water's good in it. But once you get that anterior tilt, those hips start to fold forward on you, shooting your butt backward. Girls, yeah, you look good taking those pics with that anterior pelvic tilt, but your lower back doesn't like it. And this goes hand in hand with the upper cross syndrome, because you can develop an anterior pelvic tilt and the joys of the weak hip flexors and the weak glutes that come with it.
Yeah.
Sitting down all day.
That's like the number one culprit in lower cross. Besides the fact that like a lot of people are sedentary, it's where you get abdominal weakness. So freaking weak abs, weak ass.
Weak and tight abs in this case.
Yeah.
As well, that will be kind of pulling you in. So you can think of your butthole being a black hole, and it's really small black hole, like really small, and it's slowly sucking your body into it, and your body's starting to kind of fold and go into it. So
yeah, that's exactly it. Super tight hip flexors and usually weak legs. Hey, you're deconditioned to what you get. But the tight hip flexors are a common impetus for low back pain. They're usually the cause of it, or not, if not the cause, a
buddy.
Yeah, a buddy.
They hang out.
They're hand in hand. And with the weak glutes, that could lead to things like back pain as well. So, back pain, if you've ever gone through it, I can't remember the statistics, so I'm not even going to bother. I think
they said 80% of United States
80?
adults will experience lower back pain at some point, chronic lower back pain at some point in their life.
Yeah. Dude, we were there.
Yeah, we messed ourselves up about a year, maybe a little bit more ago.
Yeah.
John and I were on a good deadlift kick, and we were doing a 5x5, and we were trying our best to increase by 5 pounds every week.
Just grip it and rip it.
Grip it and rip it. And I gotta say, like, it was pretty. Things were going well up until a point, but then things started getting hard. And there was about a month, for me at least, of really, really, really hard lifting that eventually resulted in some chronic LBP, and I had to take off deadlifting for quite some time to try to let that heal. And I've got to say, I can't tell you exactly what the culprit for that was, but I can tell you that, oh my God, I was fine when I wasn't sitting down, but when I was sitting down, oh my God, it hurt. It was so painful.
Oh man.
And it was like, not so painful like I was getting stabbed or anything like that, but it was painful as in, wow, this is super annoying. But with time and a diligent exercise routine that heck, it could have been a lot better even now looking back on it, because like, you know, I learn something new every day, and I try to build off what I learned. So of course I'm happy that I can look back and say I could have done a better job now, because that means I've been learning. But anyway, I just took the time to focus on really strengthening primarily my glutes over the time, and stretching my lower back mostly, honestly, through like down dog style stretches and stuff like that.
Nice.
Just for
hamstrings too. Your chain.
That was for more short-term comfort, because it made it feel better at the time.
Got it.
But then I was focusing my main thoughts were at least behind strengthening the glutes with other exercises. So I was doing still like deadlift movements, like Romanian deadlifts, but then a lot of like glute bridge and glute bridge variations and stuff, I believe, also helped. So now here I am today, feeling pretty good. Also been since getting back to deadlifting after the time I took off, probably, you know, a couple months at least without deadlifting. Got back into that, and just paid a lot more attention to form, a lot more, just take it a lot slower basically. So before every rep, I would make sure that I was properly braced, and I was making sure that my weight was properly loaded into my glutes and my hamstrings, as to avoid any sort of strain on the spinal erectors.
Yeah.
That were probably being worked a little bit too hard before, to be honest.
Yeah, getting brutalized.
Yeah.
Well, I remember what had worked for me was a good amount of stretching through the hip flexors, man. So you did a lot of posterior chain strengthening as well as stretching. I remember, do you remember when we were using the back extensions? Back extension with, I think, like a 15-pound dumbbell, and we just did reps and reps and reps.
Oh wait, no, that was it the back extension, or was it the GHD?
It might have been the GHD,
or probably both, honestly, because I know we did both, but I remember, exactly, doing a movement like that. And also something else, another machine that had a lot of merit in helping with this was the reverse hyper. At the time, had access to a reverse hyper, and that gave like the best of both worlds. You got the therapy of the stretch, but you also got a heck of a way to work the posterior chain there as well. Man.
So that's a double win right there. That's the one that Louis Simmons invented because of his back pain. He was like, man, this feels good. I'm going to do it.
Yep, exactly. You just rigged a table up with a pendulum under it.
All right. I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Dude, that would be awesome.
Pendulum.
Yes, grandfather clock.
But no,
Louis Simmons t-shirt.
Yeah, with him doing the GHD.
And it was one that he actually wore.
No, using the reverse hyper. Yeah. It's just his butt.
Yeah, he's just doing GHD. He's like shrugging 50-pound dumbbell.
All random. I hope it comes in blue.
Oh, of course.
I love that guy. He's crazy, man. He's like crazy.
There's a saying that there are no geniuses that don't come with a little bit of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they really push the envelope over there at West Side Barbell, right? That's what it's called?
West End Girls.
West End Girls.
Yeah.
Uptown Girl. That was like the rival gym.
Oh, yes, it was.
Man, I remember. So, what was I saying? Hip flexors. Yeah.
Yes, hip flexors are a super common place to start to address this for a lot of people. And there are a lot of ways to be able to distinguish if your issue is actually hip flexor related. And for that, we're going to link this video in the comments. There's a great Athlete X video where he goes over a handful of different tests that you can do on yourself to determine whether or not the hip flexors is going to be a thing that you're going to even want to stretch. Because if your hip flexors are happen to be a overly stretched point to begin with, if they're already weak and elongated, you're not going to want to stretch them anymore. You're not just going to want to go blanket stretch. Yeah, exactly. Stretching them more is not going to do them any favors. So I highly recommend this video that we're going to link down. If you suspect that this isn't, this lower cross syndrome is something that you are experiencing, check out this video and it'll really help.
You know, same thing can be said for the hamstrings. I remember reading this article on T Nation. It was really interesting. And it was about, like being your own best advocate when finding a physical therapist, like somebody that would be on the up and up in terms of what it takes to be like in regards to the article. They were talking about like powerlifters, strength guys, bodybuilders, basically what most doctors wouldn't necessarily understand. A lot of doctors say lay off the weights, you know, when you're injured. So how to find a good PT or a good doctor and be able to go in with a little bit of knowledge, well, a decent amount of knowledge beforehand. And one point that they were making was like, don't just stretch the hamstrings, because it might be the only thing pulling your hips down. So let's say you have anterior pelvic tilt. So anterior is the medical term for basically front. So pelvic tilt. Front pelvic tilt.
Again, picture that cup of water.
Yeah. So the water is tilted forward. Now, the hamstrings, which are the back of your leg, gonna make it super layman right here. The back of your leg is a muscle that is partly responsible for pulling your pelvis downward. So pulling the pelvis into the neutral position. Now, let's say your hamstrings are really tight. Well, they'll be pulling your pelvis back, and hopefully that's not leading to compensation. But imagine your hamstrings are not tight enough. They don't possess the strength, and they have been lengthened and stretched too far to the point that they cannot pull your pelvis back. And so that's further adding to that forward pelvic tilt.
Additionally, stretching these hamstrings then would prove to be detrimental, because you're still continuing it in the opposite direction.
You need to strengthen those babies up.
Yep.
They need to be brought back to that optimal length, which really that's just something you find through consistency in a good all-encompassing workout routine, something that addresses weak points and limitations first, but taking the bigger view. That's why, like, Athlete X, you mentioned earlier, is, in my opinion, one of the best resources in terms of like figuring out what is going on anatomically. And so knowing your sources is one of the best. That's going to be a hugely useful tool right there. And then taking in multiple points of view. So, like I mentioned in article, like really it's not that hard just to Google what is going on and then trying to parse out like what a reliable source is and who you're going to be reading from. Like, find coaches that are competent, do a little bit of your background search, your research, and figure out who's giving out good advice. So then, let's say you do go into a doctor and they have you stretch your hamstrings. At least you're more informed and you're not just going in and doing whatever they say. Because, sad to say, but I mean, I've seen it firsthand in clinics. Not every doctor is giving you like the best of possible care.
And the problem is, for a regular person going to the doctor, is that you just don't know what you don't know, like you said earlier. That can be applied to many other happenings in your life. Mm-hmm. But starting to take some responsibility to educate yourselves on important things of this nature, especially if it's something that's giving you issues like this, it's usually not the best idea to hit WebMD and freak yourself out, because now, oh great, I've got leukemia. All right. Look to, like John said, multiple sources and then experiment with things on yourself. And that'll give you definitely the upper hand when dealing in situations like John said, or even if you are going to go to a physical therapist or something like that, you'll at least have some better communication to offer them to get on the fast track to having them help you out. Because the one surefire way that you can find a doctor who's a quack or a physical therapist or a personal trainer that is worth avoiding is if they tell you that they know everything.
Oh yeah, definitely. And just them being open to your point of view is really important. I think that's good dialogue to have, because I can understand how like some doctors would get upset if a patient came in trying to tell them what was going on and like how to do their job and all. But I'm not, I don't think either of us are advocating that you do that.
I'm advocating never going to a doctor, because the doctor will tell you that you're obese, and that will be offensive. Boycott Western medicine.
Yes. And don't use our hashtags if you're not one of us.
Podcast over. All right, welcome back.
Hey.
Gotta do one of those every episode.
Yeah. So, okay, here's another one. Knee valgus, knock knees. We were talking about it earlier.
Yep. So knee valgus or knock knees would describe your knees caving in. So like the opposite of like bow legs, like your knees coming in. And that may also include flat feet or possibly externally rotated feet.
Yeah, feet turn out.
Yeah, so you could experience a lot of different things up and down the chain with this. So with knock knees, you could be also experiencing an issue up higher in the hips. So that might be a place to look for it. But generally, what muscles would be usually the culprits for being underactive and overactive when a knock knee symptom is present?
So let's see. I'll start with the most obvious one. The place that I start with when my clients present with knock knees is adductors. Adductors being so tight that, I mean, in some cases, people have knock knees as they're walking. And this is fairly common amongst women.
So really quickly, I'd like to define adductors as the muscles that are mostly present on the inside of your thighs.
Yeah.
And that are responsible for closing your legs. So good girl.
That's good
Not
girl
bad
muscles.
girl. Bad girl is the abductors.
Yep.
There's adductor and abductor. So abductor, good girl, bad girl, sorry.
Yeah.
A bad girl spreads
open.
the legs.
Yep.
And then adductor closes the legs.
Yeah, church time. So
Church is chicken.
No, it's fairly common amongst women, and it usually comes on set around like adolescence, so puberty, because
What better way to be an awkward teenager than to have knock knees?
yeah, it's great, man. It's awesome. So nice, in fact, that I'm actually gonna go have surgery next week to get knock knees, man.
So what are you're gonna have them go in and tighten your adductors, sorry, adductors.
Yep, my calves.
And then you're gonna have them weaken your and lengthen your abductors.
That's right, my external rotators of the hip, man. You know what I'm talking about. We've got glute medius. That's my favorite one. There's a lot going on the side of your leg and on the inside of your leg, but to boil it down, we'll just consider them a group of their own called the adductors.
Yeah, quite a few muscles again included in this group. And not typical muscles that you're going to be hearing about in the gym. Yeah, they do have the abductor machines that you will find in many commercial gyms, but I mean, right now, like I can't even think of the names of those, like adductor magnus.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, they have. Very unfamiliar to the typical fitness enthusiast. You have to dig a little bit deeper to really learn about these guys. Same with the abductors, for that matter, and glute medius. Like, not a lot of people are aware that a part of your ass muscle is wrapping all the way around your sides there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You're not aware of it until you do some band walks.
Right, side butt. That's side butt. You've got three butts actually. There's medius, which we just talked about. There's maximus. Most people know
This
about
one you
that.
grab.
Yeah, and then there's minimus. He's really small and deep and lies underneath both medius and maximus.
He writes poetry.
Yeah.
Cries easily.
So deep. So deep. But yes, so weakness throughout the glutes, throughout the abductors of the hip.
And how about the
and
calves?
leg. Calves? Yeah, calves are going to need some work.
So in this case, you might be experiencing weak lateral head of the gastrocnemius and possibly weak soleus.
Yep.
And then tightened and too much tension in the medial head of the gastrocnemius. So the gastrocnemius is the
Large calf muscle.
yes, the one that you notice on people with big calves, like the one that gets that cool little valley in between it.
Yeah.
Sick looking muscle. Props to those guys that have them. Mine haven't come in yet, but
on their way.
Yes, essentially the lateral meaning the outside and medial meaning the inside.
Yeah.
So weak on the outside, loose on the outside, and then weak probably and tight on the inside.
Yeah.
So really look at this, like think of it like looking at the person, their legs look like an X now. Their feet go down and then it goes back up into their hips. So it really just makes sense when you think of it that way. Like the muscles that are giving way are the ones that are lengthened and weak, and then the ones that are caving in are contracted,
Right.
and also weak, probably.
Yeah, usually.
Unless you're the gym bro who hits that chest all the time and then doesn't hit back. Probably.
I'm the gym bro that's always hitting good girl, bad girl, but I only do good girl. So that's why I'm the way I am.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're not gonna get knocked knees.
No, that I want knocked knees. That's
Well,
why
you better start only giving up the good girl and only doing bad girl.
Oh man. All right. I can make that change. Well, it's one of those things where it's not really a stretch of the imagination to see how that could cause a lot of pain, especially throughout the knees. So we always say in terms of a squat, like one general cue is you want your knees to track over your toes. So your kneecap is supposed to ideally track over your middle two toes. So that means your shins are now in alignment with your foot, your femur's in alignment with your shins, everything's looking good. Now with knock knees, you've got your knees coming in, feet pointing out, and therefore improper tracking of the tendons of the quadriceps muscles, of the muscles in the junction of your knee, which is a joint that I don't know if you've ever even just like stared at your knee. There's a lot of crap going on in there.
But all that knee wants to do is hinge.
Exactly.
It don't want to cave in.
It is not made to twist. It's not made to twist, and that is actually what's going on there. Is you're forcing a little bit of a twist to go on, and so things like tears within the meniscus,
ACL, the anterior crucial ligament.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it. I only read it.
Ackle.
Yeah. That is right up there with lower back pain as another super, super common injury for adults. Like not even active ones at that. Yeah, like because of issues in your posture and stuff like that, that can really put you in a really, really basically vulnerable position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
so think one day if you're walking around with these postural defects and you have to like jump out of the way of a car or something like that, and you cut and you haven't cut in 10 years, and your knee just blows up. That could happen.
That's one way to do it.
That's definitely like a worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is you get hit by the car and your knees blow up.
Yeah, just the kneecaps.
Yeah.
Oh, my kneecaps. Damn. No, dude. I mean, that's one way to do it. The other way is you can walk on it and, get up and down from chairs and toilets and all that kind of stuff for years on end as you simultaneously gain weight and lose strength and further inflame the ligaments and everything that's going on within the joint. And all of a sudden, you need replacements.
Which I'm sure Everybody listening to this, I bet none of you know any coronavirus victims, but I bet you all know someone who's had a knee replacement.
Yeah, super common. If not just like some kind of meniscus repair or something like that. Very, very common. And a lot of people will blame it like on, oh, I used to play sports. Oh, I shouldn't have done all that heavy weight training back then. No, it's bad form, bruh. It's just bad form. And it could have been fixed a long time ago. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but it's never too late to start. Never too late to start.
But if you got a bionic knee now, that's pretty badass, honestly. You're like one step closer to becoming a Terminator.
Yeah, that's pretty tight. Like, I would actually be curious to see, like, if you fell on it and landed on it, like, dude, it's indestructible, isn't it?
Oh, I have no...
Unobtainium.
I'm sure you still probably get messed up pretty easily, but
man,
I don't know.
I want that UFO grade, space grade, like, unobtainium joint.
Disclosure's coming soon, so you might not have to wait much longer.
Nice. But okay, so with the knees, is one that I've spoken with a few people about, people with knock knees, and they, for the most part, are under the impression that it's like a genetic thing, something that they've just had for all their life and that they can't get rid of. It's something I also commonly hear with upper back, so that hunchback position. A lot of people just think that that type of thing gets passed down, but it's not. Total myth. It's not hereditary at all. It's a learned posture.
It could be epigenetics, like nature versus nurture type of thing.
What they're exposed to.
Your parents were knock-kneed, hunchback freaks, and then they're just like, oh, that's me too.
Yep, you just looked at them and you're like, I guess that's how people stand.
Yeah.
No, man. So we're here to tell you, there's hope.
And you're not a freak. If you have this issue, you're definitely not a freak.
Unless you want to be a freak.
Yeah. Then you can call the phone number in the comments or whatever, the description, and we can talk.
Yeah, link to Elliot's number. Man, I'm excited. I'll finally get your number.
It's actually my fax number, so you need to write in.
That's awesome, dude. That's so sick. I'm gonna fax you the coolest pictures. It's gonna be like mountains and cats and stuff.
Oh God.
But yeah, there's hope. There's hope. You can work on yourself. It's never too late to start, and you have a seemingly unlimited amount of resources within the internet, and of course with us. So
always happy to help.
Yeah, and as we continue to help people with this kind of stuff, it adds to our knowledge base and to what we know. So it continues to allow us to keep growing and then, help more people down the line.
We're all getting our back scratched here. So we're close to that time. So I just want to take a moment to just kind of recap what we've talked about here and to give general advice, just cursory advice where a first place that you can assess. So going down, if you've got that forward head posture, you can possibly attribute it to tight muscles in the front of your neck and weakened and stretched muscles in the back of your neck and in your upper traps.
Yeah, tight upper traps.
And then and tight upper traps, excuse me. And you can also find this distortion frolicking through the fields with the pronated shoulders, the internal rotation there, and possibly even the arched upper back. So much like the hips, you can think of the shoulder region and the upper part of your torso as another cup of water, and you can picture this in your chest. Another good one from Athlete X says, picture there's a cup of water sitting up on your chest. Once those shoulders start to come forward and round, and your upper chest is kind of going to naturally tilt forward as well. So you want to keep that water in the glass. So what are we looking at? stretching, and what are we looking at strengthening here?
Stretching the chest muscles, strengthening the back muscles, to put it really simply there.
The upper back.
Yeah, upper back muscles. So like you mentioned earlier, horizontal pulls, rowing exercises, face pulls.
In this case as well, you can look at stretching and massaging the upper traps as well.
Yeah,
so the upper traps are a big time synergist with a lot of shoulder movement and stability of your head on your neck and everything like that. They just want to help, but sometimes they have to help too much because the boys who are supposed to be carrying the load are slacking off. So give them a little bit of love.
That's a good way of putting it. Next one down the line, we're talking about lower cross syndrome, that anterior pelvic tilt, or Instagram butt sticking out pose.
You got to do the duck lips if you're going to have anterior pelvic tilt.
They come hand in hand.
Yep, frolicking fields.
Yep, together. You don't want it. Don't want it.
You don't. So what do we do to address this? So we know we've got weak glutes and weak core, and we've got tight hip flexors.
Yep.
So what are we going to do what are a couple things that we can do to preliminarily address this?
Everybody needs stronger glutes. Everyone
wants them bigger ones
glutes.
too.
Yeah, do it.
Don't get that pancake ass.
Go frolic that way. It'd be so much nicer. So you want to strengthen your glutes. And as you mentioned before, you can have overactive abdominal muscles, but not necessarily strong at the same time. So a good amount of, and I found that they respond really well to being stimulated, to being worked. So ab exercises, and from there that tends to tire them out per se, and basically stretch them out through fatigue.
Yeah, and no harm in doing some actual stretches on them as well.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Like a up dog or something like that is a really great stretch for your abdominal region there.
Which also targets your hip flexors, which is the next one down the line.
Great extension in your hips with that move as well. So.
Yeah, and kneeling lunge stretches are perfect for stretching the hip flexors out.
But again, be careful when you're addressing these hip flexors, because you don't want to be stretching flexors that are already stretched.
Exactly. And that leads to the next one, which...
F it though with the glutes, hit them.
Yeah, no, by all means, stronger glutes, everybody, now. But no, I wanted to say hamstrings, because for low back pain, like what you were doing was a lot of the downward dog type of position, which felt super good, because it's like the bottom portion of a hyperextension, like a reverse hyper.
Or picture yourself on the back extension, basically that, without the thing holding you up.
Exactly. So it does feel super good. But exactly like the hip flexors, that might not be your issue. You might be underdeveloped in that particular area, hamstrings or hip flexors. So you would definitely benefit from seeking some knowledge in terms of how you can appropriately test yourself for these imbalances. It's surprisingly not very difficult. All you need is, the right footing there. So knowing where to look is half the battle. We're going to hook you up with links to the Athlean X videos. We believe that's one of the best sources, especially because Jeff Cavalier, as a physical therapist, has a really good working knowledge of the anatomy,
and he's a great communicator. Very easy to understand what he's putting out there.
So you can watch this video. It's got cool music, and they're really, really well done. So it's a great resource.
Definitely.
So from there, we've got knock knees. We've got that knee valgus, knees coming in.
So we've got the tight adductors, or the muscles in charge of closing your legs
inside of your hips.
And then we've got weak and stretched, or overly stretched, overly lengthened abductors in charge of opening your legs, and then also possibly some tight calves and the internal portion of them.
Yeah, it's like weak and tight at the same time.
Yeah. So with these, foam rolling is generally a top tier recommendation for the calves. It can be done on the adductors as well.
Yeah, feels good.
And then I just wanted to kind of finish by a general recommendation, something that I thought of when you were talking a moment ago, and that is that you can assume that every muscle on your body needs to be strengthened right now, as of right now, for anybody sitting here listening to this.
Yeah.
Every muscle on your body could stand to be worked and to be strengthened, but not every muscle needs to be stretched. So that is the thing. So with your exercise program, yes, take some extra emphasis on hitting some muscles that may be causing you pain or be a big time culprit to a postural distortion, but really pay attention to everything equally and as far as strength goes. But be careful when you're stretching. Not everything is going to need to be stretched,
especially with
or foam
static
rolled
stretches.
or anything like that. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times that can exacerbate the problem too. So misdiagnosis of your issue, whether by yourself or by your physician or your physical therapist.
Grandma.
Yeah, Granny. She tries her best, man. She tries her best, and you always get a cookie.
Yep.
But
not helping with that weight loss though.
damn, or that anterior pelvic tilt back pain, that LVP.
Yep.
Oh man. So as we usually like to recommend around these parts here in the Iron Will Collective, taking in a variety of sources is going to be most beneficial. So, I mean, you don't have to go and compile an encyclopedia on, different people's opinions on low back pain, but seek reputable and authoritative sources on these things. There's the spine mechanic, Dr. Stuart McGill. He is like the leading expert on low back pain in the world. Great resource. Jeff Cavalier with AthleanX.com.
There's so many on the internet, so much, including your friends here at the Iron Will Collective. If we don't know how to help you, we'll send you to the place that can.
Exactly. And what we really strive for is an open dialogue, because as we communicate with everybody out there, it helps us to learn and further ingrain what we are doing, so then that way we can just keep giving back.
Exactly. Help somebody in the future.
Yeah.
And I would recommend the same for all you out there as well. I mean, while, keeping your scope of practice in mind. But if you have a suggestion for somebody who's hurting and maybe you learned something from this podcast, or you tried something and it worked on you, at least offer that as a suggestion. But make sure they know that this is not the only way. Make sure that they know that this is just a way.
Yeah, definitely. It's a way that we think encompasses the wide view, kind of looks at the body as a whole and thinks of how everything's working together. So that way, as you check these boxes off your list, you're getting better, not just, pain-wise, but in other ways too.
Performance-wise, and it'll generally increase your quality of life.
Yeah, discipline, all that good stuff.
Yep.
So we'd like to thank you for listening, and thanks for being along with this ride. It's been 14 weeks. Oh my God, lots has happened, dude. We could listen back 2 episodes at the whole start of this outbreak thing, and it's so different, man.
Yeah, crazy times call for crazy measures. That means we are going to be coming out with a brand new podcast every weekend for you guys.
Yeah.
And we're not stopping until John's not allowed to walk over to my house anymore due to shelter-in-place restrictions.
Yeah, then we'll just Zoom like everyone else.
Exactly, but we'll have to figure out how to record it. But anyways, thank you very much for listening. Stay safe out there.
Yeah, and good night.
Good night.